Do you want to make him feel like he wants to be with you, like he can't stop thinking about you, like you are the one for him? If you want to make him feel that way, if you want him to feel really, really good about you, we're going to talk today about how to make him obsessed. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. If this is the first time here, if you haven't subscribed, if you're not following me, go ahead and hit that button to follow me to get more awesome videos like the one that we're going to be having right now today. So here's 7 different ways to make a guy feel obsessed with you. Number one. Number one is giving him some space. And everybody's probably like, wait, what? He can't miss you if you're always up in his face, if you're up in his grill all the time, if you're constantly smothering him, if you're all over him, right? He's not going to miss you. He only misses you when you're gone. It's the time away from somebody that makes us appreciate the time that we have with them. So avoid constantly calling or constantly texting or trying to stay in contact 24/7, because that will actually make him feel less appreciative of you. He'll value you less because all humans tend to value things less when they're around all the time. It's something that we call the law of familiarity. And so you want to create a little bit of distance. You want to create some anticipation, and you want to make the time together more meaningful. So don't try to stay in contact with him all the time. When you let things breathe, he'll just naturally want to spend more time with you. He'll be thinking about you. What's she doing? What's she up to? I can't wait to see her again. Does she like me as much as I like her? Right? That's what will happen if you give him some space, if you create some space there. If you're with us right now, if you're here, say hi in the chat, say hello, and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. It's cool seeing women from all over the world watching these videos. So number 2 is create variety. So variety is the number 1 emotional need that people seek in relationships. It's the number 1 reason why people cheat. Most people cheat for variety, because variety, it makes you feel alive. It creates that feeling of excitement. It makes you feel like, oh, you see somebody, you want to like rip their clothes off and kiss them all over and make sweet love to them, right? So that's variety. And men crave excitement and new experiences, and it keeps things fresh and it keeps that spark alive. And that's why you want to focus on that. So flirt, tease, laugh with them, have fun, change up things that are going on, change up where you're going on dates, change up your conversations, go deep into conversations, even if it's, even your look occasionally, if you want to, you can change up. Right? The absolute easiest way to inject variety, whether it's a long-term relationship, a marriage you've been in for a long time, or just the first or second or first couple of dates that you're on, the easiest, most effective, and longest term way to create variety is with polarity, right? It's masculine, feminine. So it's going into your feminine and either pushing him in his masculine or allowing him to be in his masculine on the dates. That creates that spark, that excitement, that chemistry, that you're kissing each other all over the place, right? So number 3 is making him feel special. So everyone wants to feel valued, and men are no exception. In fact, I would say that the number 1 emotional need that men have in all of life, number 1 for the overwhelming majority of men, I'd say at least 90% of men, is the emotional need of wanting to feel important, wanting to feel significant, wanting to feel like their life matters, like they're an important person, like they are being valued and prioritized, like they're special, like they're awesome, right? And so how do you create this? How do you do that with him? The best way is to show appreciation for the little things that he does, just appreciating him, looking up to him, respecting him, complimenting him genuinely, acknowledging his strengths and his efforts, being impressed by him when he tries to impress you. A lot of times when people seek this feeling of wanting to be important, a lot of times people will try to take it away, or they won't do it, or they won't give it to him. I suggest you do the opposite. Give it to him. If he wants to feel, if he's seeking to feel like he's important, like he's trying to impress you or something, just give it to him. Wow, that's so impressive. That's amazing. How did you do that? Right? And it can feel a little bit like, like, why do I need to do this? But if you are in a place, right, let's say that you're in a place where you're feeling insecure, you're feeling like you're not sure how things are, you feel like you need love, wouldn't you want him to give that to you? Well, when he needs something, my suggestion is you give it to him, because it'll make him feel amazing. It'll make him feel good. Guys won't remember everything that you say and do together, but they will always remember how they felt when they were around you. If you get what I'm talking about right now, say, I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask any questions that you have. I'm going to go over all the questions here at the end. So number 4 is focusing on your own life. One of the most attractive things that you can do is have a life outside of a person, right? Life outside of him, your own hobbies, your own things that you do, your own friends, your just stuff that having things outside of him makes it so that you're not together all the time, right? Law of familiarity. Over time, we just start to take things for granted a little bit here and there. And so you want to have your own passions, your own goals, your own friendships, right? And creating that. And then when you come together, it'll create this natural way of just, coming apart and coming together, coming apart and coming together, which creates that variety and that excitement and that intrigue and that interest, right? And it's really, really powerful. So you want to do that. Just have your own thing. If you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I lost myself to that relationship. Like, I didn't even know who I was. And that, it can feel noble, right? You're giving yourself to this relationship, but ultimately it doesn't work out very well when you do that. You need to have some space. There needs to be a flow. There needs to be a back and forth, right? So number 5 is creating positive associations with yourself. So associations he has to you, right? People are drawn to things that make them feel good. If you're fighting all the time, right? There's constant arguing and fighting. And I want him to show me he cares, so I pick fights, right? That over time will completely destroy your relationship, because he's going to see you, and when he sees you, he feels negative. He sees you, he feels negative. He sees you, he feels negative. Soon, just the thought of you will make him feel negative. And that's when things just go really, really, really badly. And so what you want to do is you want to have lots of positive emotional experiences. Think of it like a bank account, right? You want to fill that emotional bank account filled with love and happiness and good times and a variety of great different types of experiences. And that's what will make it so that you can get through challenging times or bad times, because you'll be able to remember the good times, and then the bad times won't destroy you. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm talking about here? Right? The more he enjoys being around you, the more that he will seek you out, the more that he'll think about you, the more that he will think, oh man, she's so amazing. I can't wait to see her again. Like, she's such a blessing to my life. I'm so lucky to have such an amazing woman in my life. And that's how you want him to feel. Number six is don't go to the extremes. Balance is really the key here. Especially like if you're insecure or you're feeling impatient, or if you're feeling like, you need to prove yourself or prove your worth or any of that kind of stuff, it's really easy to go to the extremes. or if a guy's like pulling away and you're feeling like frantic about it, it's really easy to jump to the extremes and try to fix things on these, like with, tons, like doing everything, right? And you don't want to do that. The power is really in the subtlety. It's in the subtle moments, the little things that you're adding here and there, that you're creating together. That's what creates that amazing emotion over time, right? It's if you're jumping to different extremes, most people, you're going to freak them out because they're going to be like, why is this person doing so much? Why is this person constantly trying to trigger emotions in me? Why is this person constantly doing all these different, things? It starts to feel manipulative or something bad, right? And a lot of people will end up leaving as a result of that. And so you don't want to go to the extremes. The magic is in the middle, the subtlety, the natural connection, the lasting positive emotions. Attraction builds over time through consistent, meaningful interactions. If you even if it's like a new like dating skills and stuff, you're just learning this, a lot of times it's easy to jump to one side or the other. It's easy to go from, super nice girl that, gets walked all over, to like, bad woman smacking people around, wearing leather jackets and getting tattoos on your head, right? And you don't want to jump to either. You don't want to be on either side of that. The magic is in the middle. That's where the sweet spot is. The most attractive place is right there in the middle. Do you get what I'm talking about? All right, and then number seven. Number seven is remembering your value. Remember that you are a divine being of God, and your goal, it's not to prove your worth. It's not to convince somebody to be with you that doesn't want to be with you. It's not fighting to have somebody in your life who's not fighting to be in your life. You're not trying to do any of those things, right? Sometimes doors close because they aren't meant for you to go through them. Sometimes doors close because there's something greater out there for you. And you need to remember that, right? Remember your value. Remember that, you are an amazing person for somebody to be with, right? I was just talking to a friend of mine. He was talking about how there's a lid for every pot, right? There's a lid for your pot, right? And sometimes somebody might be, you might feel insecure about them and you want them and you're trying to get them and all these different things, but they might not be the right person for you. And so you need to let go, right? Part of this process is just letting go, right? Letting go and allowing the right things to come into your life, allowing the right things to be attracted to you. And when you're holding on, sometimes you might end up missing the door that's actually meant for you, because you're so focused on a door that's closed, right? So make sure that you open yourself up. Sometimes it can be really hard, especially if you're having a hard time or coming from a hard place, but it's important to remember your value. Because if you remember your value, if you know where you're coming from, if you know that you're a valuable human being, if you know that you're a prize, if you know that somebody would be lucky to have you, you'll speak, you'll act, you'll talk, you'll behave in a way that communicates that, and you'll convince other people of it. And if you don't believe in it, then you'll convince other people that you're not worth it as well, because that's what we do. And so you need to let go of that. And so let me go back over these again. Number one is giving him some space. Number two is creating variety. Number three is making him feel special. Number four is focusing and having things going on in your own life. Number five is creating positive associations with yourself. Number six is avoiding extremes. And number seven is remembering your value. So let me know in the chat, which of these tips are you going to try first? Which one of them do you need to work on? Let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions, because I am going to go over questions right now. Let's see. We've got a bunch of people saying, hey, I get it. Truth. Carolyn says, I can't, Carolyn Thomas says, I can't find that right person. Well, keep going, Carolyn. You know, what's really important when you're in a place where you're having a hard time, where you feel like, you know, maybe you've gone months or even years not having somebody great in your life, the most important thing that you can do is envision it in your mind, see that relationship that you want to have. Remember what it would look like to have that relationship, what it would feel like. Feel it in your heart. How would it feel to be loved, to be valued, to be treated amazingly well, to have security in the relationship that you have? What would that feel like? And that's what you need to remember, because challenges are going to come up, right? Things are going to come up. And, you know, you can take a break, you can take some time off, you can do whatever you want to, but always remember that it's out there for you. The right guy's out there for you. The relationship you want is out there for you. You just have to keep stepping forward. Just keep taking steps forward, and eventually you'll get there. Just keep going. Just keep going. Okay, so let's see. Lots of people say hi, 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 hi. Someone says no volume. Does any you guys hear? Florida, Amanda from the Netherlands. Hey, Ohio. I'll be in Ohio in about a week and a half. I'll be back in Ohio. That's where I'm from originally. South Africa, California. Lots of people getting it. Hello, hello, hello. Good metaphor. So true about the little things. Uh, Angie says, I feel if he really wants to be with you, he will always put the effort in and won't make you do all the work. I've just learned this from a very bad relationship. Yeah, and here's the thing too, Angie. One of the things, Letitia says that she can hear me. One of the things you want to remember is that it's important to make sure that you're both good partners for each other, right? Like there's this kind of misconception out there in the dating space where it's like either he's chasing you or you're chasing him, and there's no in between, right? This is the extremes that I was talking about in number 6, right? The extremes are going from he's doing everything or I'm doing everything, right? The magic is in the middle when you're both great partners and you're both building that relationship together. That is where the magic really lies. Let's see. Butterfly Queen says, I'm from Cape Town. Cool. The Timuk Duck says, where is that red sweater from? This isn't actually a sweater. This is actually a shirt. And it's from Tommy Hilfiger. It's a Tommy Hilfiger shirt. It's great. Great shirt, I know. I know you like my shirt. I like my shirt. Everybody likes my shirt. Apparently, this color is my color. So I feel I'm really happy. Really happy for this color. Doop de doop de doo. I'm looking on TikTok right now, seeing what people are saying over there. So Letitia says, what happens when one partner is more affectionate than the other? How can you approach this? So I'm guessing that you're saying that you're more affectionate than he is, or is he more affectionate than you are? Right? So some people don't like affection as much as other people do. Right? And it's good to know where people are and figuring out what works and what doesn't, right? Some people you're going to meet they don't like to be touched, right? They don't want people touching them because of whatever, right? It's not their love language. They don't particularly like touch that much, all that kind of stuff. And that's okay, right? It's totally okay. And if you want touch, if you want touch a lot more, that's totally okay as well. It's not a big deal to want touch, right? It's okay. And what you want to do is just talk about it, communicate it, right? If you're the one who wants more touch, right? Let's just assume that that's where you're at, is that you want more touch, is that you want to reward or praise behavior that you enjoy, that works for you, that feels good to you. Does that make sense? Because the more that you praise it, the more that they feel that like positive emotion from doing something, the more that they will end up wanting to have that, because touch is a natural and normal thing, right? And affection is a natural and normal thing. But a lot of times through childhood, different things, we might, have different negative associations to feeling, being touched or touching, or maybe you came from a family that didn't touch each other. They, do any of those kinds of things, and it might be uncomfortable at first, but over time, those things that are uncomfortable can become comfortable, and then it becomes like a positive thing that you both really love in your relationship, and that's where a lot of the magic happens. Does that make sense, Letitia? Yeah. So, let's see. WJ says, I've been in a 2-year relationship with a married guy whose wife mistreats him and he wants a divorce. Well, you should get out of that situation immediately, WJ Chronicles, because um, don't be with a married person. It just that doesn't work out very well, ever. And if he wants to be with you, what he needs to do is he needs to actually get that divorce, because otherwise you're going to be sitting there. It could be forever, right? Most guys don't end up leaving their wives, right? They talk a big talk, but they don't actually end up doing it. And so my suggestion is that you never date a married guy. Just don't do it. It's not good for anybody, really. It's not good for anybody. Don't do it. Don't do it. Shandora says, obsessed? Seriously? Eye roll. Yeah, like in a good way, healthy way, right? Like you can be healthy, like a healthy obsession with something, right there. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Human says, hi, big brother. Good to see you from Cape Town, South Africa. Well, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Beverly Harris says, we all have friends and family who want to add their ideas. Go slow. Yeah. If you have a question, go ahead and put a question mark next to your question. And it's easier for me to figure out which ones are questions and which ones aren't. So Jess says, why have I always been drawn to older men? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. One is there's a lot of biological, natural reasons. Older men tend to be better at things, right? And a lot of women, what they want most in a partner is a man that they respect, right? And so they look at a guy, and younger guys your age, might not be that impressive, you know? Let's just be real. The younger a guy is, the less likely he's impressive in any way, shape, or form. And the older a guy is, the more likely he's competent, the more likely he's good at things, the more likely that he has some experience in dating and relationships, the more likely, a whole bunch of different things, the more likely he's stable, right? It doesn't mean that he is, it just means that he's more likely that. And so a lot of times women want guys that have all of those things because that's what they're attracted to. And it sounds like that's what you're attracted to, Jess. Does that make sense? You can ask me any kind of questions, and I will answer them. Sandy says, what's the norm of intimacy in marriage? Well, here's my suggestion, Sandy, is that don't look at the norm, right? The norm, what most people are doing is not what you want to do. Okay. Generally, that's almost always the rule. If everybody's zigging, you want to zag. If everybody's doing this, you don't want to. And I'm kind of joking a little bit there, but the point is that you want to focus on like what's healthy, right? Stop looking at what's everybody doing and start looking at what's healthy. What is healthy to do, right? And you're talking about intimacy. My suggestion is at the very least that you guys have at least one day of intimacy every week, at least one, right? Sometimes it might go longer than that. Sometimes it might be more than that, but you definitely want to have one time where you're getting intimate physically every single week. Does that make sense? Because that'll make sure that you guys are bonding and connecting and doing all that kind of stuff. Even if like some people like they're like, oh, I gotta do it once a week. Even if you have to schedule it into your schedule and you're like, all right, we're doing this, right? We're gonna be connecting. This is gonna be great. My suggestion is that you do it, right? Even if it feels like, oh, we're kind of just going through the motions, go through the motions. Just do it. Connect with each other. It's a very, very important thing in a relationship, and it's important to do that with your partner. Does that make sense? Letitia says, thank you for all the wonderful tips. You're absolutely welcome. All right, let's see. Questions. Just already asked that. Lightseeker says, question, is it normal for my boyfriend to be inconsistent sometimes? Sometimes he'll text to remind me of our dates, sometimes not, or sometimes cancel our dates. Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? You want to look at patterns here, right? So, is it normal? The question is, what's normal for your boyfriend, right? It's not what's normal for humanity, right? Everybody's different. Everybody has different things. Some people value, um, consistency or security, right? This is the emotional need of security. Some people really, really value that, and they make sure that all their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed, and they make sure that things are scheduled and they're there and they have a consistent way of doing things all the time. Some people have no consistency at all, right? Maybe you've met some of these people or know some of these people. One of my best friend in college was actually this way, where he couldn't show up on time to save his life, right? You never know when this guy's going to show up. He's a great guy, great guy. Just never knew he was going to show up. And so it's different, right? And what you want to do is look at your boyfriend and say, okay, what's the pattern here, right? What is he doing? What's happening when this is happening and when that's happening? It sounds like he is consistent a lot, but sometimes he's not, right? Which means that something's happening where it's, maybe mentally or emotionally he's getting stressed out, or something's happening and it's kind of pulling him away. And that's not always necessarily a problem, right? As long as he's honest about it, he's working on it. It doesn't end up being like this thing that's happening for 2 years where he just cancels all the time, right? That can happen for emergencies and big things and stress that's happening and stuff like that. So, does that make sense, Light Seeker? It depends on him and what's going on with him. Okay, let's see. Zozo says, I'm in a relationship for 7 months. I love him so much, but he is going to leave the country in 6 months, and I can't be with him, and there's a weak chance to be with him after that. Should I break up with him right now? Well, it depends, right? Ultimately, it sounds like you're gonna have to break up with him, and so the question is being with him longer going to just prolong the pain, or is it going to just create some better memories and let you guys go, or let you process things in a way that gives it closure so that you can let go and move on? And so what you want to look at here, Zozo, is your own mental and emotional well-being, and say, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need in order to let go of this in a healthy way, in order to let go of this in a way where I'm feeling complete and I can move on, and I can, maybe I'm sad about it because, whenever there's an ending of a chapter, there's always some sadness, right? And I can let go of this chapter and move on to my next chapter that's coming in front of me, and step into that new chapter in a strong and powerful way. What do I need to do in order to make sure that I can do that, right? And that will be your answer. Your answer will be inside of that, right? It might be that you need to take some time off. It might be that you need to just cut things off right now so that you can go through the mourning process or the sadness process or whatever. And it might be that you need a little bit more time to, say the things that you need to say or do the things that you need to do in order to feel complete there and let go of it. And so the question is, what is that? And so, yeah. Yep, 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 yep. Okay. Let's see. Lisa says, is there a way to gently signal men that you are looking, preferably older men like 55 plus? Is there a way to gently signal men that, well, if I were you, I would just own the facts. So what's happening here, Lisa, is it sounds like there's some fear there, right? Like, how do I gently jump around this idea that I'm looking, right? First, my suggestion is that you shift your mindset and just totally own it. Like, hey, I'm looking. I might possibly be interested, right? From a verbal standpoint and like what you're actually doing with guys, it's better if you are focused on him rather than, just telling everything that's going on with you, right? So, talking to him and, like, let's say that you're, so let's talk about different things here, right? First off, let's talk about your social circle, right? If you are looking and you want people to know that you're looking, just talk to your friends and let them know that you're looking and have them tell other people about it, right? So have them tell guys about it, have them tell men about it, have them do all these things, right? That's the best way to do it so that the word gets around, but gets around with people that you like and trust and all that kind of thing. um and then when you're talking to guys, the like I was saying, the focus should be on him and like what's going on with him, right? And talking to him and doing a little bit of flirting, but doing it in a way that's attractive. And usually the best way to do that is to focus on what he's saying and whether he's into or interested in you or dating or something like that, right? Because that's a better conversation to have than telling everybody that you're single and looking, right? A better conversation is, um, are you single and looking, right? Are you attracted to me, right? That's a better conversation than I'm single and looking and I'm attracted to you, because one of them is curiosity and it's about this other person and it's about creating something there. The other thing is about you and it's not bad, but it's also kind of a less powerful position to be in, right? Than, figuring out what's going on with somebody else or creating something there with somebody else. Does that make sense? That's might have sounded a little bit vague. If that sounded a little bit too vague, let me know. Do 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 do. Okay, Danette says if you've been seeing a guy for 2 months and he pulled back after you cleared up a misunderstanding, but you are still friends, do I take my power back and tell him that I've noticed a shift in communication and that if he wants to be friends, that okay and there's no hard feelings, or do I give him space, or do I let things fade and just go into friendship mode because we will have to see each other in the community? Well, I don't suggest that you do any of those. I mean, if you want to, you can, but a better way of doing it, Danette, would be like what I was talking about before, where you're creating something there, right? Where you're creating emotions there, where you're talking about what's going on with him and building that up, right? I have this thing that I call PMI flirting, right? Flirting is one of the best things that you can do in situations like this because it's fun. It's if you're doing it in the right way, most people do flirting the wrong way, right? And the wrong way to do flirting is, I really like you a lot. Let me, try to show lots of interest in you. That's the wrong way to do flirting, right? That's the way of giving all your power away, and like it just doesn't work very well because you're like, I like you. Do you like me? Right? It's just a very bad position to be in general. And instead, it's better to talk to somebody and find ways that they're being romantic or that you might see that they're attracted, and then framing it that way, right? And talking about that. Are you missing me already? Right? This is a fun one, right? Are you missing me already? So the idea is this person's attracted to me, and I am talking in terms of this person being attracted to me, right? And if they're not attracted to you, what will end up happening is they'll be like, I'm not really, I'm not really feeling it anymore. And then you can have a conversation about it, right? If you just want to straight up have that conversation, that's fine, but it's really kind of boring, right? And like I was talking about earlier in the video, main portion of the video, what people are attracted to is excitement. They're attracted to variety. They're not attracted to boring. Nobody's attracted to boring, right? Boring is not going to attract a person into your life. It's not going to keep them in your life. It's not going to make them excited about you. It's not going to make them passionate about you. That's like, there's places for boring, right? Most of life is boring, and there's places to bring in excitement and fun and playfulness and all that kind of stuff. And if you're doing that, you're bringing that in, you're having fun, right? You're flirting, you're teasing, you're talking to him, and you're like, like he sends you a message and you're like, oh, missing me already, winky face, right? That's fun, right? That's not, hey, I'm super into you and I want you to love me, right? It's framing him as being into you, and then it's up to him to deny it, right? And if he doesn't deny it, then he's falling into it, and it creates this dynamic of, you're a man, I'm a woman, we're connecting with each other in this way, it's so fun and flirty. And then inside of that, if he wants to deny it or whatever, that's fine, but at least have that frame, have the romance there, have the fun there, have the man woman dynamic there, so that that you're doing everything to create the right environment for somebody to stay interested in you, right? If you go into boring and I'm just a friend, and like, I'm not really sure how to be flirty and romantic and stuff like that, it's like, well, no wonder people are losing interest and stuff like that. Is it up to them as well to create that? Sure, but most people aren't getting dating advice, let's just be real. And so um if you know the secret of how to do this kind of stuff, it's really, really powerful, and it can keep them interested, and it can help you figure out if he's interested or not, or if he's lost interest. And it's a really powerful way of doing things. Does that make sense there, Danette? Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. WJ Chronicles says, he cries, he can't live without me. How should I tell my married boyfriend that I need to leave him? You just need to leave him, is what you need to do. You just tell him, be like, hey, here's what you want to say, WJ Chronicles. Say, hey, I've really enjoyed the time that we've spent together. You're an amazing man. I would love to spend more time with you. I'd love to be with you long term. I'd love for us to have an amazing relationship. But there's a problem, and it's that you're married. And as long as you're married, you're not actually available. And I get that, and it's hard to get divorced. It is. There's a bunch of different problems. You're going to have financial things that are going to come up. You have emotional things. If there's kids, there's more things there. There's tons of stuff going on. And, if you want to be with me, if you love me, if you really care about me, if really can't live without me, then you will go through that process and become available so that we can date and be with each other, right? Some people, some men and women, they will date somebody who, and either they aren't available or the other person isn't available, and they're literally dating and seeing that person because they know that it's a fantasy that can't actually come true, right? And it keeps that fun and excitement alive, right? We were talking about fun and excitement. This is one of those ways, variety, right? This is one of those ways to create that. It's just not a healthy way to create it. And so you want to just communicate that to them, let them know, and move along, right? And just say, hey, I have to let go. I have to take care of me, right? Stand in your own power. Stand for yourself, and walk away from it. And if he wants to fix things, let him fix things and then come back. And until he's done that, just let him be. Just let him go. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. Let me see here. What do we got? Blessed Princess says, good day. Good day. Good day, mate. Are you from Australia? Blessed Princess. Blessed Princess. I'm trying to see a guy for a date. He says 100% wants to see me, but he's got commitments. How do I ask other guys out on dates? Circular dating? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult, like, the easiest way, if you're talking to a guy, is just to give him a hint, right? Just hint at it. Yeah, I call it an invitation. Really what you're doing is you're creating an invitation there, and you're like, hey, um, you should take me out on a date. You should ask me out on a date. If you're texting with him, just send him a hint, like just hint, colon, you should ask me out on a date, and then put like a shh, thing or whatever, right? And all, like, if they don't get the hint from that, they'll never get the hint. So that's what you do. That's what you do, blessed princess. It's the easiest way. You should definitely date. We call it dating in abundance, right? Dating in abundance, dating until you find the right person, right? Is basically what you're doing. Is you're not, like, there's a big mistake out there where a lot of people, they'll commit to somebody who's still shopping around, right? You're totally committed. They're not sure about you yet, right? And that gives away all your power and basically puts you in a position where you are at their mercy. And that is a bad position to be in, which is why dating in abundance is really powerful. Let's see. Camellia says, Bo. I don't know if you meant to say bro or bow out or. Anyway, she says, can you get. Oh, how? How can you get better at flirting? Practice. Practice is the best way. I have a program, really, an ebook that you can get all about flirting. It's got some exact examples and stuff like that. I just got done creating it, and if you want that, I don't have a link to it at the moment, but watch out for it, and you can get it at some point. So yeah, it's a skill, right? So relationships are a skill. Dating is a skill. All these things are skills, right? They're relationship skills. And nobody teaches us these unless we happen to be in a family where you just naturally do them with each other or learn about them or whatever. But most people don't learn these things. But it's like one of the most important skills that you can possibly have is learning how to flirt. And it's just a skill. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So I suggest that you practice it. You practice it. That's how you get better at it. Does that make sense, Camellia? Camila? Camila? Okay, so Patricia says, how can you help them open up more? Well, the easiest way is there's a principle in psychology, it's called the go first principle, which states that if you go first in doing something, the people around you are far more likely to do that, right? So if you are in a conversation and you ask him, like, let's say you ask him, like, what's something that you're scared of, or what's something that you really want in your life, right? Or what's something that, you thought you couldn't do that you are now capable of doing, or whatever, right? And he's like, I don't know, go first, right? And be like, oh, and tell a story about something that you did or something you overcame or some small vulnerability that you have. And then once you're done with it, go, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything like that for you where, you had a challenge that you eventually overcame, right? Or some fear that you have or whatever, some silly thing that you do, like, uh, I don't know, a little bit messy or something like that, or some find small little quirks that you have, right? You let's say you hiccup a lot, or you've got you still have a really precious stuffed animal even though you're 40 years old, or you know whatever your little quirks are, right? Just have some on hand that you can talk about and go first with them, and it usually opens up a space for him to go and start talking as well. So stuff like that can work really, really well. Does that make sense? Does that make a sense? I hope that make a sense. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. So, let's see. Apple user 357924 says, great username there. Why does he blame me for no reason when I'm not cheating on him? Is it because he had a bad past? Yeah, there's one of two reasons. Either it's because he had a bad past, right? So if somebody has trauma in their life, they a lot of times are going to be afraid that that same thing will happen, right? And so they will freak out about it. The other potential situation that you have there is projection, right? And projection is when somebody's doing something and they can't imagine somebody else not doing it, and so they blame the other person for doing something that they're actually doing, right? A lot of times cheaters will blame their partner for cheating because they're cheating, and so they're constantly suspicious that the other person's cheating because they're doing it themselves, right? And that's the mindset that they're in, and so it could be one of those two things. It's most likely one of those two things. It's either that he's got trauma that he hasn't healed yet, or he's doing it and then projecting it onto you. Either one's not a good situation, and what you really need to do is have some boundaries around it. See, Amanda says, for a guy to like you and we don't have anything serious yet, do we need to be in contact every week? What if we get together with certain space? It seems. I'm not sure what your. Oh, there's more. I have the impression I have more connection with this guy, which things go slowly. That's the guys who is in touch very often. When the communication is often, it doesn't last, there is no traction. Yeah, I mean, if a guy's not contacting you at least once a week, it's very difficult for you to keep things going when it's like you're like okay, he's contacting you every couple of weeks. It's like, how are we supposed to maintain a relationship here if we don't even talk to each other once a week, right? Yeah, I would just, either let go of those guys, or challenge them to step up, or both, right? Or just, let him know that you're interested in him talking to you more often, you know, find out, what's normal for him, and yeah, see if he'll talk to you more often. That's really what you want to do. A lot of times, a lot of these things are cleared up by communication, right? If you talk to him, you're just like, hey, I'd love to talk to you more often. I'd love it if we could, see each other more than once a month or whatever it is. It's hard for me to really have much excitement between the two of us if I only see you once every month. If we don't only talk once every 2 weeks, it's hard for me to get excited about that. I'm just not excited about that. Is it possible for you to, talk and meet up more than that? Like, what's stopping you, and just find out and just have a real conversation with them. A lot of times, like I said, Amanda, a lot of these things can be cleared up with just straight up real conversations, real communication. Jess says, I was married to a man 16 years older and thought I wanted younger since he passed away last year, but I'm friends with a man 24 years older and have feelings for him but don't want to. What should I do? Well, just don't allow your feelings for a guy dictate who you're going to be with, right? So there's a lot of women who are like, super attracted to guys that are toxic. And if you're super attracted to somebody and you know they're not good for you, that you're super attracted to them, just let them go, right? Cut it off. Move on with your life. Cut everything off completely from them so that you can move on with your life, right? You want to get into a healthy situation. Don't be a slave to your emotions, right? Choose what it is that you value. Figure out what it is that he's like, that like the reasons that you don't want to be with this guy, and not only remind yourself of him, but like really start associating him with negative things, and then start figuring out what traits or characteristics that you want to be attracted to and start valuing those more highly. Start appreciating those. Start looking at that as something that you want in your life. Start looking at it as attractive, right? And start spending more time around those kinds of people. I have a saying, which is, you're not attracted to what it is that you want. You're attracted to what's most familiar, right? And so you aren't going to end up with the guy that you want. You're going to end up with the guy that's most familiar, because we always go back. Think of it like a home, right? You always go back to your home. It's like those people that they have homes like in like hurricane areas, and every couple of years their house is flooded and then they have to rebuild their home, and they're like, oh, these people in this place, or their homes are destroyed again, and it's like, why don't you leave, right? And the reason they don't leave is because it's their home, and you always go back to your home. And so, Jess, your home is guys that are older, right? That's your home. That's what's most familiar to you. That's what you've spent most of your life in, is relationships with a guy that's much older than you. If you want something different, you need to create something new that's more familiar. What is best for you to make more familiar? Think about that, Jess. What do you want that is going to be most familiar for you? And that is what you should be focusing on. That's what you need to get around. That's what you need to start thinking about. That's what you need valuing more highly. And once you start doing that, once you start connecting with that, once you start seeing that, once you start getting around that, it'll become more familiar, and you'll start being attracted to that. You'll start being drawn to that. You'll start moving towards that instead of this other thing. And that's what you want to do. Does that make sense, Jess? Amanda says, how the excitement turns into real feelings. Well, usually excitement is the precursor for real feelings. Real feelings happen through the connection of the emotional needs over time, right? And so the four primary emotional needs are: one, excitement, right, which is what you're talking about. Two is love and connection, right? Three is security, and four is significance, right? And you need to feel all four of those. And when you're connecting with those, all four of those emotions over time, then he will end up feeling a lot more like he wants to spend a lot more time with you, that he wants to be with you, all that kind of stuff. And that will develop and turn into real love. That'll turn into something real. That'll turn into something more, right? But you can't allow it to stay on the excitement level, because excitement is usually caused by more superficial kind of characteristics, right? And so you want it to go deeper. And when it goes deeper, that's when you connect on a real level and it turns into something real. And you want to have conversations about it. You want to talk about what it is that you want. You want to find out whether this is a good person for you to be with or not. Does that make sense? Patricia says, "Girls, no married men, please. It's a route to disaster." Yeah, it's most of the time. Most of the time, it is. Are there situations where you can date a married man and he'll end up getting divorced and marrying you? Yes, absolutely. Most people know of a situation like that. What's more likely to happen, the situations you don't hear about because they're usually kept under the radar, but it's the far more likely scenario, is that he's not going to leave his wife and he's going to end up just treating you like a dirty little secret. And eventually you're going to decide that you deserve more and you're going to walk away. And hopefully that's a shorter period of time than a longer period of time. Human says I skipped her question. Let's see, did I? Human says, what is the driving force for a person to become obsessed with a particular person, and what are their triggers? Does it stem from childhood issues? Not necessarily. It depends on what you mean by obsessed, right? Um, what I think you're talking about are like toxic or like trauma bonds or like certain types of things like that. Yeah, that can be triggered from childhood experiences. That can be triggered from like your attachment style. But there's a healthier kind of obsession, which is what I'm talking about, right? Which is having a real strong, genuine, powerful connection with another human being. And usually those are there's a bunch of different factors that go into that. One of the biggest ones is what's most familiar or what your models were as a child of different things and or the models that you've had in relationships for a long period of time, right? So let's say that you had a mother and father that were really connected to each other, and that's your model of what love looks like, right? You will be attracted to men who have similar characteristics as your father, assuming that you had a good relationship to him, right? um, there are other factors as well, right? I talk about the emotional needs model because that's the one that most people are able to do something about in the shortest period of time, right? If you connect with a man's emotional needs, we have four primary emotional needs, two secondary but higher level emotional needs. And those four primary emotional needs, if you connect with those four, somebody, assuming that they're attracted to you in the first place, they will become obsessed with you. That's just, if you're dating each other and you're connecting to those four, assuming that he doesn't have some kind of childhood trauma that makes him run away or, like a really bad unhealed trauma from another relationship that makes him run away, he will be obsessed with you, but in a healthy way, in a good, healthy way, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a healthy, happy, okay thing for them to be in. Does that make sense, human? Doop de doop de doop de doo. Doop 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 doo. So Maj Dolin says, "Do you believe in twin flame concept?" I guess it depends on what you mean by the twin flame concept. I believe that I believe in the soul contract. I believe that we're like, there's people that we're supposed to meet here on this planet, and that they fulfill different roles in our life. Some are here to make us learn painful lessons. Some are here to make us learn happy, loving, amazing lessons. And so, but I believe that we're supposed to meet everybody that we do meet, you know, and I believe that, people are here to challenge us. They're here to help us grow. They're here to teach us about love. They're here to teach us about what love isn't, right? I believe in that. And so, does that make sense? It's kind of not sure how off topic that is, but I think it's a good way to look at things. I believe it's a good way to look at relationships and look at it and say, okay, this person's here to help me learn that I need to value myself more. that I need to love myself more, that I need to treat myself better. Does that make sense? Nicole says, I appreciate your lives. Well, I appreciate you being here, Nicole. So thanks for being here. Okay, so, all right, everybody. Thanks for being here. I gotta take off now, but it's been a great time. We've laughed, we've cried, we've had great times together, and maybe we'll have some more great times again here in the future, pretty soon, hopefully. So thank you all for being here. I'll speak with you again soon, and always remember that you are worth it. Have a great